Hey, oojamaflipper, how you doing? Just finished work and a little bit sleep deprived, but I wanted to make a really quick response to the whole overpopulation thing. I've kind of noticed on YouTube most people accept the case that further population expansion would be a bad thing. There's like yourself, to be serious, heavy traffic ahead, Emendum, and probably a bunch more. And it kind of feels like it's getting a free ride. Haven't been following the argument that closely. Maybe someone is making the counter argument. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Obviously, a larger population per se isn't a problem. It's to do with supplying the needs of that population. Supply and demand. You can have a famine with 50 people just as well as with 6 billion. Just depends on the supply, right? And with 6 billion people, you have a lot more people doing the work, producing the food. I'm pretty sure we run a global food surplus at the moment. Europe definitely does. But I guess the argument is that resources are finite, they're limited. So even if we're good up to 9 billion, at some point we're going to hit the buffers, and then we'll have a real problem. But I think this is wrong. I think there's a lack of imagination at play. Let's take 3 basic resources that everyone needs: power, food, and physical space. Okay, power, coal, gas, oil, yeah, they're all going to run out. Green alternatives have nowhere near the output we need. But I'd be amazed if by 2070 we didn't have a fusion reactor on this planet. Not a fission reactor, a fusion power supply. A star, like the sun. That would give us unlimited free clean energy. And it could be done before that if governments focused on this like they should, instead of starting wars over oil. By the way, for people who say the rich waste their money on marble tiling and other worthless purchases, fusion research has been funded by Bill Gates. So at least someone's got their eye on the ball. But theoretically, there is no limit on power. So food, okay. Crop yields have constantly increased due to science and technology. I think for some crops, a hectare today yields 4 times what it did 100 years ago. And in the last 10 years, we've developed the ability to map the genetics of organisms, the genome. So there'll be extra yields coming out of that. Basically, it can only go up. And meat, which has a much higher calorific content, I don't see why in maybe 20 years we won't be able to grow that in test tubes on an industrial scale. Slabs of prime beef. So no more animals getting hacked to pieces. And in terms of farming, there's tons of space we don't even use because it's hard to farm, but we can deal with that. These are just problems waiting to be overcome. I would have thought in 100 years time we'll get 4 times more crop yields again than we do now. Space, physical space. There is tons of space. I really noticed this. I was on a plane flying somewhere over those Stan countries, Kurdistan, Uzbekistan, whatever. Looked out the window for about 3 hours. It's all empty. Just an occasional tiny village. There's enough space. Granted, there's not enough space in London or New York. That just means we need to build somewhere else, like Kazakhstan. Yeah, but there's no limit on space. And Australia is completely empty because there's no water. But we could desalinate. But that would take power, so we'd better build that fusion reactor, right? Or maybe the Chinese need to build a fusion reactor. But a bunch of people, environmentalists, say China shouldn't industrialise because it'll mess with the environment. Well, I would say the risk is in not letting China industrialise. They need to be brought up to speed to a Western productive economic standard as quickly as possible, so that they can farm productively, help with the research, build the solutions. including that fusion reactor. The worst thing would be to try and stop the development of places like India and China and whatnot. Then we really could have a problem. There are benefits in an increasing population. We couldn't have gone to the moon if the population of the Earth was 1,000. It would never have happened. You need large populations to advance, provided they're ordered and structured correctly. The more people you have working in a modern economy, the more technical progress, the more research, the more these so-called finite limits prove not to be limits at all, because science and technology circumvents them. And that's basically why I think this finite resources argument that comes up all the time is no argument at all. Cool.